Hey there, Modern Math teacher. I need to start this episode with a confession. So, a few years ago, if you had asked me whether technology belonged in the math classroom, I would have unequivocally said, absolutely it does. And quite honestly, I still believe that. But today, I think I would answer it a little bit differently than I would have then. Because after the last few years, and really especially this last school year, I don't think the question is really, should we use technology? I think it is, when should we use technology? And more importantly, when shouldn't we? Because lately I've been finding myself rethinking a lot about the assumptions I had about technology in the classroom, both from reading the book Anxious Generation and the one I'm reading right now, which is The Digital Delusion. And if you haven't grabbed either of those, they're available on Amazon. You can get them in an audiobook format, I think, or just pick them up from Amazon or your local library. Okay. So, today, I want to talk to you guys about what I've noticed about student technology use and why I'm becoming more intentional about the devices we use, and how those books, like I just mentioned, The Anxious Generation and The Digital Delusion, are really shaping my thinking right now. So if you are up for it, let's do this. Now, I want to be very, very clear up front. I am not anti-technology at all. I use technology. I love technology. I've done series on here about AI and all sorts of educational tech in the past, right? I've built an entire business around helping teachers think about how to use math instruction and ed tech effectively, right? There are some tools that I love and use, and I will continue to do so. AI in different aspects. Desmos, love it. Delta Math, love it. Snorkl, love it. ASSISTments, I'm excited to try it. And these are things that I plan to keep using. So this is not at all about eliminating technology, okay? It is all about being more intentional with it. Because I really started noticing something this school year. When students had access to devices all of the time, they often use them as an avoidance strategy. Not because they were bad kids and not because they didn't care, but because literally technology makes it very easy to disengage, right? Now, honestly, the more I paid attention, the more that I saw it. Students would open new tabs. They would check things that they shouldn't be doing. Even if I had my Go Guardian up, they could find some way around it, right? They would be wandering digitally. They would avoid doing the difficult thinking that I'm asking them to do in my math class. And I'm not sure if that's just because, that's kind of how they tune out in other classes, or because I was asking them to do more cognitive thinking with our new curriculum that we were piloting. But here's the part that really got me thinking about this. Sometimes they weren't avoiding work. They were avoiding that discomfort, right? Because math class is tough. Darn straight, Barbie. Thinking is hard, right? Productive struggle is uncomfortable. And a Chromebook sitting 3 inches away provides a nice, easy escape route for them. So one thing that might work has pushed me to revisit is, why am I using this tool? Not can I use it, right? And why? That's because I keep coming back to ideas from my bachelor's, from back when I first got my very, first teaching license, the TPACK and the SAMR model, right? So teaching technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge, the TPACK framework, and SAMR, substitution, augmentation, modification, and oh gosh, I'm gonna blow it now. I don't know, redefinition. That sounds right. Something like that. Because, good technology isn't about adding tech. It's about improving learning and using technology that can help you with that. So in my thinking right now, if the technology doesn't deepen their understanding, doesn't increase their access to something, improve feedback, or provide student exploration, why are we using it? Okay. So, and there are definitely places where I absolutely love technology. For example, having a platform like Delta Math, or what I'm hoping for with ASSISTments, giving them immediate feedback, letting them know right or wrong, right? Letting them check their understanding, correct mistakes, get support without waiting for me to have to grade something. Because if they're working on building up their procedural fluency, I want them to have that immediate access. I don't want to collect 20 to 30 practice problems like we did back in the day, grade them by hand, pass them back 2 days later. That's not going to happen for me, okay? Other activities that I still love and plan to use more intentionally again this year, Snorkl. I really love it when I get to hear students explain their thinking and seeing the feedback that they get and the evolution of their thought process as they engage with the Snorkl activity. Super powerful. And honestly, it gives me insight that I can't always get from paper. So that is absolutely going nowhere. Also, some of the like Desmos activities, when they're used intentionally, they're fantastic. Students can explore patterns, test ideas, visualize concepts in ways that can be more challenging in other avenues. So Desmos is great for that. I know GeoGebra has some really good ones, but I'm just not teaching geometry next year, so I don't need that one, right? So those are tools that I'm still going to incorporate in my class because they serve a purpose. But here's things that I'm changing. And this statement was true for me this year. I don't want Chromebooks open all hour. Nope, not at all. I didn't want that this year when we engaged with our new curriculum, and yet somehow, some way, someone would always find a way to get it out and open, and they were just misusing their time, and it was driving me bananas, you guys. So I want technology to be very purposeful in this upcoming year. So my current thinking right now is we are doing all of our learning first and then technology second, right? I want my students engaging in those IM lessons with me, the discussing, the thinking, the whiteboarding, the reasoning, the making sense of ideas, the collaboration before they do anything that involves jumping onto a screen. And I think that shift matters. Now, one of the things that I've been thinking about lately is the role of the calculator, in particular the TI-84, which I've got this fantastic one right here. You can see the TI-84 plus CE with Python. Super cool. I had a TI-84 pink one. That one's still at school right now. But here's the thing. I was never allowed to use it. When I got my math degree, I was not allowed to use a calculator in math class. So I never learned how to use it effectively. And that is where I need to start thinking, okay? Because, somewhere along the way, I think that a lot of us started assuming that the Desmos graphing calculator could replace handheld graphing calculators. And that's what I told my students. I'm like, you don't have to go out and buy one. You can always use Desmos. But here's the thing. I don't want them on their computer all the time. I want them to have something handheld, okay? One of my goals this summer is actually to learn more about how to use these calculators and what they can actually do, because I think there are so many great opportunities for exploration, graphing, pattern finding, modeling, without immediately putting students into or onto that Chromebook. And I'm just really curious to see where this kind of thinking leads. So encouraging all of my students to make sure that they have some sort of calculator. And if they're in my Algebra 2 classes, I want them to have a graphing calculator like this TI-84 Plus. So very excited about that. My Algebra 1 students, honestly, I love me a good TI-30X IIS. This thing is fantastic, and it's cheap, right? All my students can get one. I just got one for my rising 6th grader, so he could have one. And friends, this one is like an underdog. If you've never used it, and you guys, some of you are listening to me in podcast space, and the rest of you are watching me on YouTube. So, hey there. This is the TI-30XS Multi-View. It's got like math print in here. It is a super great calculator. I'm also a big fan when my students come to me with that. A lot of my students in Geometry Pro Lab last year had this, but honestly, either one of these 30s is going to get kids all the way through where they need to be until they get to see me in Algebra 2, and then I want to see them with that TI-84. Okay, I think that's enough. So again, clearly, I don't think technology is the problem, right? I think it's unintentional technology that's become the problem. And maybe that's the lesson that I'm taking this year, because just like the curriculum, just like assessment, just like lesson design, technology is a tool, and tools are only as effective as the purpose behind them. So next year, again, my goal is not less technology. My goal is more intentional technology. And I think that those are very different things. All right, well, before we wrap up, here's something I would love for you to think about. How are you using technology in your classroom? And do you think it's helping or harming the learning of your students? Ponder that. Shoot me a message right here in the show notes. You can text me or go hit me up in the Modern Math Teachers Movement group on Facebook. I would love to know what you're thinking, what your answer to those questions is right now. Now, if you're trying to think more intentionally about how students engage with their learning and when projects, performance tasks, or practice make the most sense, of course, make sure you grab that free guide, morethanjusttext.com. /practice. I don't know. It's linked in the show notes here. And remember, if you're joining us for July Math Therapy book study, now is a great time to grab your copy. I've got links to the physical and audiobook for that in the show notes as well. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Poolside PD. Be thinking about how you're using technology in your classroom. We'll chat more about that in our next episode. Until next time, guys, keep it real.